thank you
You're
so
going to
much,
really
Kim.
enjoy our next guest. She's
Yeah.
a great friend of ours, and you've known her if you've been in the Atlanta area. She's been on television. She's
Yeah.
now host of Atlanta Plugged In, and she's a communications coach, and 27 or 30 years in journalism. I think 27 in TV journalism. Please
Wow.
welcome Kimberley Kennedy. Thank you so much for being here.
Why did we have to say how many years?
Oh, you know what? I guess I should have done
Was
that.
that
Sorry about
important?
that.
You're looking good, girl. You're
Because
looking
you've got
good.
such great experience, and that's what you're bringing to our audience tonight, is really
Yeah.
talking
Well,
about...
life experience.
Exactly. But in journalism, you've really seen a lot in your life.
I have. This is so weird, though, to be on this. I feel like I want to
I
ask
know.
you all the questions.
Yeah,
It's
go
so
ahead.
weird. So, but I'm going to sit on my hands and not do it.
Yes, this is not going to happen tonight.
Yeah.
But, so Kimberly, tell our audience a little bit about, tell us how you came to faith. Tell us about that your growing up years. Let's start
That's
there
a great
first.
question, because I bet I was like a lot of people in your audience. I grew up in a household of faith. We went to church every Sunday. We were involved in church activities. But I think I was more of a head Christian than a heart Christian. And then, as God always does, he allowed something to happen in my life that the enemy meant for bad, but he meant for good, which was to bring us closer together. And I guess we'll talk about that in a minute. But it was when this event happened, and sadly, it was when I was in my 30s. I wish it had happened earlier, because I wasted all those years of not really having a relationship. It was more religion. And now it's a relationship with Jesus. And I just love him so much. And I just love him. And I just want everybody to, I'm just so happy that my story led to something so positive.
Sure.
Powerful. You've got an awesome book out, Left at the Altar, that's been out for quite a while. And
Yeah, I always say left at the altar, not a metaphor.
Yeah.
Because people were like, oh, that's a cute name, but it really...
Not so much when you're feeling it.
Yeah.
Right. Well, tell us a little bit about how
Well, it really
the book
did
came
happen,
to be.
and I think the reason it resonates with women especially so much is that we've all, if you haven't been married, you want to be married, and so everyone can imagine what that felt like.
Yeah.
That to be at the church, and then to have, it's the happiest day of your life, and then like that, it's the worst day of your life. I mean, everybody can imagine the feelings of rejection that you have from that. And at the time, I was the 5 o'clock anchor at Channel 11. So I was on the air every single day, and everybody knew I was getting married. And so compound the heartbreak with the public humiliation of it.
Right.
And it was pretty devastating on a lot of levels. So it was, I was in a depression for a long time.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
How long did it take you before you got up the courage to write the book and share your story with other people?
What was interesting was people wanted to talk about it. Strangers, I mean, people at the mall, people would write me letters. When I got back to work, I had a stack of letters, from people wanting to say that they
Amazing.
broke their heart, and I had this, I had my heart broken, and so I knew it was interesting. But as time went on, and I realized people still wanted to talk about it, I realized it's because we all know what it feels like to be rejected, and it hurts so much, and people want hope. They want to hear that there's hope after it. And so I was giving a speech to a church, and there was a line of women when it was over. There were 500 women there, and I bet you the line was out to the street of people who wanted to tell me their stories. And I thought, God wants me to write this book. I know it. I felt it so strongly. And then how it happened that I would get a book published. I'm a nobody, and I got published by Thomas Nelson, and I mean, and then so many interesting things happened with media that I got after it. So I knew God wanted to take this sad story and make it
I
something
saw your
positive.
interview on CBN, told you that earlier, as well as the People magazine article. So many great things that God has done with this. Do you think it's because rejection strikes a chord with all of us, and it happens on so many different levels? It can happen with a parent-child situation. It can happen in a marriage. It can happen on the job.
Oh my gosh, Rebecca, you've hit it, because I think rejection is what the enemy uses, and y'all are going to have some guests on a little bit to talk about spiritual warfare, which I can't wait to hear that, because it is so real. And I think that's a tool that the enemy uses now, even more so in 2016, to separate us from God, this feeling of rejection, because Anybody out there in your audience who's had a husband leave them, had a child reject them, got left, what happens is you start feeling inside that you're not worthy.
Right.
I felt like I wasn't lovable. No one was ever going to love me. I'd never, what was wrong with me? It was always what was wrong with me.
Sure.
And I hated God. Why did he let this happen? Why didn't he fix it? So much, I think the enemy uses it to separate us from God, and it's very powerful.
He does. He tears us down with it. And we get these messages that roll in our heads. And so many children I've seen, and I've worked with so many teenagers and women that from childhood, it can, like you said, from a parent. If a parent rejects you, then you carry that throughout your adulthood, unfortunately, unless you get help and you deal with it. And one way you talked about how it drove you into the arms of the Lord. And that's, and we can all relate to episodes in our lives that there were that time where He drove us to His Word. He drove us to Him so that He could be the one to first strengthen us, and then we were to find out that, He doesn't reject us, but He knows what it feels like. I mean, Christ suffered the greatest rejection of all.
Oh, yeah.
And that's it. I mean, that is it. Think about the rejection that He faced.
Yeah.
I mean, the disciples, the people He loved the most, the Jews He came to save, the rest of the world. Nobody was there when
His family.
His family. I mean, and it makes me being left at the altar look like,
a picnic.
nothing. It feels embarrassing almost to say that, but it's hugely powerful.
Can you give us some practical tools about overcoming rejection?
Well, that's what the book is about, and I do have 10 really good steps. And here's the interesting thing is that whatever kind of rejection you're facing, you can apply these tools. And I've had to apply them in other rejection situations in my life. Since that, I remember I had a big one happen, and my mother said, Kimberly, you go read your book because you said that you could use those for anything, and it's true. But here's what I would leave you with: 2 things. One, the main thing is all these lies all this that you're believing about yourself, whatever way you've been rejected, that you're not worthy, you're not lovable, you're not good enough. It's just a lie.
Right.
It's just a lie that the enemy is using to make you feel that way. You are not unworthy. You are. I mean, think about our worth only comes because we are children of God and because He chose us. Think about that.
Absolutely.
It puts everything else in perspective. And can I share one thing? I don't know. Is my time about up?
No, you're in great shape. You're in great shape.
Because I just love this subject so much. I just feel it's just so important that God wants us to live abundantly, and we can't live abundantly when we're feeling down and depressed and beaten down. And God did not create that spirit of rejection. And it's so important. When this happened to me, as I told you, it was very public. It was on the radio. It was in the paper. Everybody was talking about it. But one good thing that came out of that, this woman stopped me at the mall one day and she said, I heard what happened to you, and I'm so sorry, but I want to tell you one thing. Man's rejection, God's protection.
Oh, good.
Amen.
Wow. And first, for years, I thought that meant God was protecting me from a bad marriage, which I'm sure He was.
Yeah.
But think about what God was protecting me for.
Right.
Which
so
was
good.
the deeper relationship with Him.
Oh,
So think about so anytime now, seriously, like I had a blind date and I really liked him and he didn't call me back. So I was thinking, man's rejection, God's protection. Maybe he was an axe murderer or something. I didn't know that.
You don't know.
Maybe he was. See? I might have gotten in the car with him.
Well, if he's watching, we'll pray for him tonight.
Exactly.
So call in.
But think about
That's
how
great.
you can
You're
use
so
that
right.
for anything.
You absolutely can. Well, talk to the young women, because I know you have a real passion for young women and young boys, but our youth suffers from so much rejection. We talked about social media and how social media is a great tool for connecting, but it's also a great tool for rejection and hurting people. And so I think the people who are on the receiving end of it, as well as the giving end of it, you need to take a moment and just stop yourself and think, what am I putting out here, and how is this affecting other people? Speak to young women and young boys that might be facing rejection in different ways.
The book was written and came out in 2009. Social media was just starting, and I wish I could make a new edition and talk about social media.
Well, you can.
Because I could, and I should, because it is hugely powerful right now.
Yes.
Okay, think about this. This is really cool. Okay, when you want likes on your picture, you post a picture and you want to get liked. What is that? that's the opposite of being rejected.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So all we're trying to do is not be rejected.
Right.
So the more likes we can get, the less rejected we feel.
So true.
Right.
And how powerful is that? How many times do we hear about young girls getting bullied because on social media and people will write things? I mean, it is so prevalent. It breaks. You know, think about all of the bad behavior. Bad behavior, that's like an old lady, but the behavior these young people are doing today. But think about that it's just all because of peer pressure. And what is peer pressure? It's a desire to be included and not rejected.
Right.
1 in 3 girls, 1 in 3 14, I read this yesterday, 1 in 3 14 and 15-year-olds. 14 and 15-year-olds have been sexually, are now sexually active. 14 and 15. I was still playing Barbies.
Wow, 1 in 3.
1 in 3. What is that? That's a desire to be accepted and to be loved and to find your worth in someone else.
Right.
That's the only place your worth is coming from. I'm telling you, that's where it's at.
That's right. You know, looking back on all of this, would you try? This is probably a given. You know, the answer. Would you change anything?
Not a thing.
Yeah.
Not a thing.
Right.
Not a thing.
You know, I wanted to ask you too. You went through a lot after all of this happened to you, didn't you? I mean, changing career, there was a lot of loss, and it was a crushing, really, in your life.
I got thyroid disease, which is clearly brought on by stress. That's what the state I had worked myself into. Think about where I was the night that this happened. I was at the height of my career.
Right.
Had plenty of friends, had a fun, exciting life, made lots of money. I had a cute car and a cute haircut, and everything was going great. And then that happened, and then I was as low as a person could be. Now, so where was I finding my worth? In the world.
Right.
In the world.
Right.
And, oh, I just wish I could tell everybody it's not where your worth is found. It just changed everything. When I finally, you know, you and I have talked about feeling like you're drowning.
Yes.
Sometimes, and you have your own story, which is incredible. Sometimes you should be a guest on your own show because it's really a good story. But
I'll interview you.
Okay, all right.
Because you said you felt like you were underwater with, you know, all your nose was, you know, it was just your nose sticking out, and that's the way I felt. Like I was just now that I look back, dog paddling to be accepted and to be loved and to be liked and to be not rejected.
Jumping through all the hoops.
Now I just am on my raft, just, you know, just having a good time.
Yeah. And
Because I don't feel I need to be, you know.
And look at the doors that God has
Right.
opened for you to be able to share this message. And that's why we have the finished work of the cross. That's why Jesus gave his life, is so that we would be reconciled to him and accepted by him and experience his love.
Absolutely.
You know, it's the opposite of rejection.
It's the total opposite of rejection. And I'm so glad to be back. I got away from television for a while, and now I'm back on at Channel 46 here in Atlanta doing a show called Atlanta Plugged In, and I get to do, it's no more murders and fires and, you know, negative stuff. It's all happy. You should come be on my show.
I will.
That's a good show.
It is a good show. I've watched your show. It's a great show.
It's just fun to be back. And anyway.
Yeah, you said, I remember you told me when you went back into that position, you said it's like putting on my fuzzy slippers again.
is.
I feel like I'm at home.
I just love it.
That is so awesome.
I just
mean,
love it.
What a joy that is.
I love the people I work with, and it's fun.
Well, I want to encourage everybody in our audience to get this book. And one way that they can contact you for speaking engagements, you do speaking engagements, you do communications and media coaching. You've helped me in that area as well, so I've been very happy
And you're
with
doing
that.
very well tonight, by the way.
Thank you very much.
I just wanted to...
Are you going to give us notes after this?
Exactly,
No,
she's
we're
going to give us some critique. But I want you to go out and get this book, and especially if you've got a young, you know, a daughter, a son, even a son could read this. It is a great story. There's other women's stories, other people's stories about rejection in here, and tips and tools to overcome it and so forth. And so I think it's going to be important. A way to get in touch with you is through the Robinson Agency, and so they can go to theRobinsonAgency.com.
Yes.
And find out more information about Kimberly and book you on to speak and so forth. One thing you said in here, and I'm going to say this really quickly. Yes, a man had rejected me, but God was still there protecting me and loving me and trying to draw me closer in. And we've talked about that tonight. And you recognize that he's in control. And Kimberly, we're just thankful that you came on to tell our audience that tonight. Because I think there's got to be some people out here that are experiencing rejection, experiencing a trial in life. And God's just waiting with open arms, is he not? Is there
Yes.
one last thing you want to say before you go?
I just want to say, nobody, when you pray and you're down here, know that Jesus knows exactly how it felt to be rejected like that. So you're praying to one who totally gets it.
That's good.
And that'll give you a lot of peace. So thank you for having me. This was great.
We're so glad that God has chosen you to be a voice to our city.